College life was supposed to be a time of discovery, new friendships, and exciting adventures. But when I moved into that cramped, dimly lit dorm room with Mark, I had no idea that my college experience would quickly devolve into a nightmare. Mark was unlike anyone I had ever met. At first glance, he appeared perfectly ordinary with his unkempt brown hair and wire-rimmed glasses. But beneath that facade lurked something sinister, something that sent shivers down my spine. It started with the peculiar habits. Mark would stay up late into the night, muttering to himself in hushed tones that I could never quite make out. I would catch him staring at me, his eyes devoid of emotion, as if he were studying some specimen under a microscope. Then came the strange objects he kept hidden in our room: rusty knives, bizarre drawings, and a collection of animal skulls. When I confronted him about it, he brushed it off as a macabre sense of humor, but his cold, unfeeling gaze told a different story. Nights were the worst. I would wake to the sound of Mark pacing the room, whispering to himself incoherently. On one particularly unsettling night, I awoke to find him standing over my bed, his face inches from mine, a twisted smile stretching across his lips. "Can't sleep, huh?" he hissed before retreating to his side of the room. Fear gnawed at me, but I couldn't afford to leave the dorm. There was no other housing available, and my pleas to the university fell on deaf ears. As weeks turned into months, Mark's behavior escalated. He began to leave disturbing notes scattered around our room, cryptic messages that hinted at a mind teetering on the edge of sanity. One read, "I see your secrets," while another simply said, "You can't escape." I knew I had to protect myself, so I installed a lock on my side of the room, hoping it would keep Mark at bay. But it only seemed to amuse him. One evening I returned to find the door wide open, and Mark sitting on his bed grinning like a predator. "You can't hide from me," he whispered. Desperation led me to confide in a close friend, Sarah, about the nightmare I was living. She urged me to contact campus security and even offered to let me stay with her until things were resolved. But as I gathered my belongings to leave, Mark appeared in the doorway, a cold, deranged look in his eyes. "Leaving so soon?" he taunted. "I thought we were becoming such good friends." Sarah and I made a run for it, and as we reached the safety of her car, I glanced back at our dorm room window. Mark was there, staring out at us, a twisted smile on his face. He waved goodbye as we sped away. Campus security conducted a thorough search of our room and discovered disturbing evidence. Photographs of me sleeping, journal entries detailing his obsession with me, and a chilling manifesto of his plans. Mark was promptly expelled and ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation. My life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the scars of that experience lingered. I learned the hard way that evil doesn't always come dressed in a cloak of darkness. It can hide in plain sight, behind the facade of an ordinary college roommate, waiting to reveal its true, terrifying nature. College is often a time of freedom, growth, and new friendships. But for me, it was a descent into a chilling nightmare that would forever haunt my memories. When I moved into my freshman dorm room, I was paired with a guy named Brian. At first glance, he seemed like a typical college student, easygoing, friendly, and sociable. But it didn't take long for me to realize that beneath his cheerful exterior lay something far more sinister. Brian was exceedingly charming, always ready with a smile and a kind word. However, I noticed that his eyes never quite matched his expressions. They were cold, calculating, like those of a predator sizing up its prey. My first inkling that something was seriously amiss came when I noticed Brian's peculiar habit of taking photographs. At all hours of the day, he would snap pictures of seemingly ordinary objects: a coffee cup, a textbook, my backpack. When I asked him about it, he just laughed it off, calling it his artistic hobby. But it wasn't long before I realized that his photography wasn't just innocent fun. He had amassed an unsettling collection of pictures of me, taken when I least expected it, in moments of vulnerability and privacy. These photographs revealed a disturbing obsession, a window into a mind unhinged. I confronted Brian, demanding an explanation for his invasive behavior. He dismissed my concerns with a chilling nonchalance, saying that he found me fascinating and wanted to capture every aspect of my life. His words sent a shiver down my spine. Nights in the dorm room were the worst. I would wake up to find Brian standing over my bed, his face inches from mine, his breath hot and putrid. He would whisper strange, nonsensical phrases and then disappear into the shadows when I startled awake. As the weeks passed, Brian's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He started leaving cryptic notes under my pillow written in a language I couldn't decipher. They contained ominous messages like, "I know your secrets," and "You can't hide." Terrified for my safety, I sought help from campus authorities, but they were reluctant to take action without concrete evidence of a threat. They suggested I try to find another roommate, but the university housing was full, leaving me trapped in a living nightmare. One fateful night, I returned to our room to find it transformed into a macabre shrine. The walls were covered in photographs of me, some of them distorted or defaced. My heart pounded as I realized that I was not alone. Brian emerged from the shadows, his eyes now vacant and devoid of emotion. He held a knife, its blade gleaming in the dim light. It was then that I understood the depth of his madness. With a chilling calmness, Brian confessed his obsession, his desire to possess me completely. He said that he couldn't bear the thought of me being with anyone else, that we were meant to be together. I knew that I had to escape, that my life depended on it. With adrenaline pumping through my veins, I lunged at Brian, knocking the knife from his grasp. We wrestled on the floor, each of us fighting for our lives. In the end, I managed to overpower him and flee from the room, leaving Brian screaming incoherently behind me. The police were called and Brian was arrested, charged with stalking and attempted assault. As the weeks turned into months, I couldn't shake the feeling that Brian's cold, calculating eyes were still watching me, even from behind bars. The ordeal had left me scarred, a chilling reminder that evil can often masquerade as something far more innocuous, lurking in the shadows until it's too late. College life was supposed to be a time of excitement and new experiences, but my freshman year took a chilling turn when I moved into my dorm room with Alex. At first, he seemed like an ordinary guy, just another student navigating the transition to college life. But it didn't take long for me to realize that something was deeply wrong with him. Alex was unnervingly friendly, always eager to engage in conversations that veered into the unsettling. He would ask about my daily routine, my friends, even my family, prying for details that made me increasingly uncomfortable. His eyes, however, revealed a different story: cold, calculating, and void of empathy. The trouble truly began one evening when I came back to our shared dorm room. The door was slightly ajar and I could hear Alex muttering to himself in hushed tones. As I stepped inside, the room was bathed in a dim, eerie light, with symbols scrawled across the walls in what looked like blood. My heart raced and I asked Alex what he was doing. His response sent a shiver down my spine. "I'm trying to decipher the messages," he said, his voice dripping with anticipation. "They're meant for you." Terrified, I contacted campus security and explained the situation. They searched the room and found disturbing notebooks filled with my name, written hundreds of times, interspersed with ramblings about my daily life. Alex was promptly removed from the dormitory and placed under psychological evaluation. For a while, I felt safe, but the horror was far from over. I received letters in the mail, each one more disturbing than the last. They were filled with references to our shared experiences, to conversations we had had late at night, and to secrets I had never shared with anyone. Alex had been keeping a chilling record of my life, detailing everything from my favorite foods to the names of my closest friends. The letters grew increasingly threatening, promising that he would always be watching, that he knew my every move. Terrified, I sought help from the campus authorities, but they could do little to protect me from the relentless onslaught of letters. As the days turned into weeks, the letters grew more personal, more invasive. They hinted at a deep obsession, a sinister desire to possess me. Then, one night, as I lay awake in bed, I heard a noise coming from the hallway. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoed in the darkness. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that someone was trying to enter my room. I reached for my phone and dialed 911, praying for help to arrive in time. But before I could utter a word, the door swung open, and there stood Alex, his eyes filled with a manic intensity. "I told you I'd always be watching," he hissed, advancing toward me. In that moment, the police burst into the room, overpowering Alex and placing him under arrest. It was the end of my harrowing ordeal, but the scars it left behind would take much longer to heal. I had learned a chilling lesson about the darkness that can lurk in the hearts of those we least suspect. It's a lesson that has stayed with me, a haunting reminder that evil can manifest itself in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the people we think we know best are the ones harboring the darkest secrets.